Should be good to go. All right, our first order of business is review of the meeting minutes from our July 9th, 2026 meeting. That one happened to be held at the library. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So a correction from staff that'll need to be made, 601 Lake Street. It was not noted at the time that the public hearing was opened, so that will need to be added for that hearing.
Okay, and you had a problem with the recording of that meeting, didn't we?
Correct. The recording did not have audio, so the minutes were developed using the notes taken by staff.
Perfect. Any other corrections? Hearing none, would someone like to make a motion?
I move to approve the minutes with Dalton's correction.
Do we have support for the motion?
Support.
Further discussion? All those in favor of accepting the minutes as corrected, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Excellent. We have minutes. All right, our next order of business is a fence variance request for 1723 South State Street. Go ahead and open that public hearing. Is there someone here who would like to come forward and tell us what you would like us to consider? Please, if you can come to the podium, that way it gets recorded, hopefully.
Thank you for your time. Yeah, according to the, submittal and the staff report, we're looking to replace a hedgerow in part of our side yard, which is apparently classified as a secondary front yard. And we're looking to put in a fence that is 5 feet tall in 2 dimensions and 6 feet tall in the other dimension, just because the property slopes a little bit and we want to keep it at the same height. I know Dalton put in some pros and cons and so forth. So I also prepared some kind of posters here to kind of explain what we're after, and I can walk them around to you. But this is the property, South State Street side, Howard Street side, and we're looking to replace this hedgerow with a fence in this small area of our yard. Our arguments or reasoning for doing this is that strict enforcement would unreasonably deprive us of the same privacy that our neighbors have. And on the next poster, I can show you where those are and what those fences look like. 4 of them. Also, if we were to go with strict enforcement of the variance, it would essentially cut our functional backyard in half, reduce the space that we have behind the fence by almost a half. And then as far as we said, strict enforcement of the chapter would be contrary to the spirit and purpose of the provisions. So the hedge is already there. We're looking at something just as tall, wouldn't change their view. And I'll show you on the next, and one of the further slides, the vast majority of that yard would be unfenced. We're only looking at a small portion of footage. And finally, there's no visibility issues or anything else. It's far from corner of either the street or the alley intersection. And I think some of these are included there, but I've elaborated on these a little more. So we have 4 properties here. And if you can see from there, our green one highlighted in green here is what we're looking at. These ones highlighted in yellow are pre-existing tall fences. Dalton had indicated in his staff report that technically these 3 were not secondary front yards. So even though it would look the same to anybody driving along Howard, technically, the houses across the street don't have their front doors facing this way, so it has to do with the orientation of the houses across the street. So in our case, we have three smaller houses across the street. At 602 Howard, Brian Carlson said he had no issue with the fence. I don't know if he submitted anything in writing. And I'd also point out that looking out his front door, he would not be seeing a fence. The middle property here, 604 Howard, has been unoccupied for about 1.5 years since the previous owner passed away. And then here at 606 Howard, Tim Stepke, he's the only one that would really be looking at that, and looking more at a driveway though. And he said verbally he had no issue with it. And I don't know if he provided any documentation. In his report, Dalton also mentioned that this one at 505 Archer technically is non-compliant because there are houses across the street that face it. So I can pass that around if you want to take a look at it, or if you're good with that.
I think we,
Sorry.
no, go ahead, because Dalton did include that later. All right, go ahead. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, and then we have two more visuals here that might help show things a little more clearly as well. This is the view from Howard, side of our property. Again, the vast majority of our side yard would be unfenced. We're just looking at replacing this hedgerow over here. This diagram shows the property as it exists now. We have the hedgerow here, and we have two large trees, and this is drawn to scale. I'll also bring that around if take a look.
Thank you.
And then my final exhibit here is showing what 3 different scenarios might look like and what the consequences would be. So as is, which is just a smaller version of what I just showed you. This is our functional backyard. And it has openings here next to this big tree and right next to the garage. So we don't have safety for pets or children, grandchildren in our cases. And so that is why we want to put up a fence. Also, it'd be lower maintenance, wouldn't worry about root problems from the bushes and things like that. With the variance, this hedgerow would be replaced by a fence directly with gates. So that would provide the security in our backyard and also the privacy from street noise and things like that. Yeah, and that's I guess the pros and the reasons why we would want to do that. Now with strict compliance, according to Dalton's interpretation, the fence it would have to be set back with the edge of the house here. So our functional backyard, like I said, we'd lose almost half of it if we wanted this fenced in for security purposes. And again, it's inconsistent with what's already in the neighborhood. So if we're worried about, the character of the neighborhood or something like that, the 3 houses down the street this way, all the way to Niles Avenue, have much taller fences with much more frontage. And again, the hedge is already there. So I guess I'll pause there and see if you have any questions.
How tall is the hedge?
The hedge is 6 feet tall in some places already.
Thanks.
I'd say between 4.5 and 6 feet tall, depending on how the bushes have been growing.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Yes,
Mhm.
how about, you looked at, obviously you have, landscaping there right now, but
Yes.
have you looked at the ordinances that have been formulated in the last 1.5 years or so here for the city? to see what your other options are. We appreciate what you've just presented there. But what about some of the hardscape and landscaping ideas? Because there are plenty of options now available to the residents other than just fencing.
Could you give me an example of something that would help contain
Well,
kids and pets?
well, they're like flower boxes and so forth that, you know, could be elevated and to a certain height and then planting within. So the root systems aren't in the ground, they're, you know, above ground and so forth.
That would be, that's a good question. So, in the event that you folks said, nope, we deny it, we might in fact have to look at something like that. I'm guessing it would be quite an expensive alternative, and we'd have to look into what the ordinances are, how tall the raised beds would have to be and so forth. We'd also have to have a gate in there, gates in there again to secure the area, but it's something to be considered, but it would be an alternative if you folks deny the variance. But thank you for bringing that up.
The fence as it goes up to the walkway to your
Yeah.
home,
Yep,
it's gonna be on the east side of the walkway, correct?
correct,
Not the west side?
correct.
Okay.
The initial drawing that was provided by Fence Masters,
Right.
they had a photo, and I think he had somebody on his staff kind of overlay it with lines which weren't in quite the right
Right.
place. So then there was an additional drawing added. It's not a photographic one, but it shows the dimensions more accurately. And you're exactly right. It would be
On the
east of
east
the,
of the walkway.
exactly,
Yeah, the color key was incorrect on that.
correct, correct.
Other questions for the applicant from the board? All right, thank you, sir. We'll go ahead and open it for public comment. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to this request? Please come forward, tell us who you are and what you would like us to consider.
My name is David Cook. We live around the corner on Archer Avenue for 50 years, and I'm very proud of the city. And I've never formally met the Petlicks, but drive by their house 5, 6, 7 times a day at least. And they are always working. And they have improved that property so much. They put a lot of heart and soul on hands and knees pulling weeds. And they've been a blessing to St. Joe. And I fully commend them for that. And hopefully you will give an exception to the variance or let them do this, because anything they do is going to be a positive for the city of St. Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And my wife gets the credit for 90%.
Can I hire you?
Anyone else care to speak to this?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just before the meeting, the applicant had handed me a handwritten note from Rebecca Marsh at 1807 South State Street. It reads, CJ and Linda, fence is okay with me.
Perfect. Thank you. Anyone else care to speak to this? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and discussion of the board.
Sounds good to me. Like they've done there. That it's not gonna be detractor, like based on the hedge already being 6 foot tall. Nobody has an issue there.
And when you go down the alley, and you look
It's not
to,
gonna-
and you look to your right, it's actually less
Exactly.
of you get more of a visual, so it's actually better from a line of sight point of view, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, it's a variance, but it seems reasonable to me.
Yeah, what I looked at is, we've had a change in Dalton's role. And Dalton is reading the ordinance and interpreting it as he has. And I think that's different than previous administrators have looked at it. In particular, get the address right, I think. The fence, I just had it, at 1722 Forest, which is directly across the alley from their property, pulled a fence permit and was allowed to put that fence there, even though that's could be interpreted as a secondary front yard. So that was allowed without a variance. You know, Dalton and I had a little back and forth. The house on Forest directly across the street from that fronts on Forest. So Dalton's interpretation is that, quote me if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, is that since that house doesn't front on Howard, that house doesn't have a secondary front yard.
Correct. So you would be looking at the properties which are adjacent. So that would be any properties directly abutting, as well as those which are separated by a right of way. So either the alley, in the case of the one on Forey's, and then for this specific property we're looking at, the properties on Howard, that front onto Howard facing the home would be what's triggering it. And if you look at the adjacent home, the property to the south, across Howard Avenue, that fronts onto Forey's Avenue as well. So in this case, you would be looking at all adjacent properties, not just those which are on the same side of the street, is my interpretation of the ordinance and how it's reads. So because of that, that requirement would not apply to the home at 1722, but it would at 1723 State.
Which is also a different interpretation because typically we wouldn't consider the alley as separation on that side of the street is the way that things have been interpreted in the past. Whether that's right or
That's what I.
whether that's right or wrong, that's the way it's been interpreted
Is there
in
a
the past.
definition? And
So the ordinance does not define the terms abutting or adjacent, and when a term is not defined, you have to take it to mean its standard meaning. So in this case, because the ordinance uses both the terms abutting and adjacent, you would have to assume that the intent of the word adjacent is to refer to how it is commonly used in other situations and ordinances, to say that it is referring to properties which are not directly abutting, but are separated by some form of right of way, whether that be a alley, a street, as examples.
Well,
Yeah, and
so-
I'll go on, you know, further, you know, the reason of a secondary front yard to some degree was to maintain sight lines from the front of your house so that your neighbor doesn't have a fence that in their front yard that blocks your view.
Right.
So that, you know, is really on the same side of the street. And I'm not sure that when it was all put together, whether it was intended to mean across the street.
right,
You know, so for all of those reasons, I don't know how we can deny this when the neighbor directly next, across the alley didn't have the issue, and I can see where different interpretations are what has triggered that.
Yeah, so my interpretation is exactly the opposite, you know, as you just expressed, a bit. And, you know, strict enforcement of adjacent property. We've had a couple of these conversations now for the last few months. And, to me, either, and I know there's some actions going on about definitions in yards, but it hasn't happened yet. So to me, going off of what the ordinance is stating, the strict, you know, enforcement, you know, is something that may or may not be changed, but to me, it is challenging the community character of having fences, once again, facing someone's front yard. Fences, tall fences that are a variance to the interpretation that we've had in the past for adjacent properties. So to me, I wouldn't support it because I think it's setting again, a bad precedent, not a bad precedent, but the incorrect precedent. And I just think that we're going to see more and more of these, and I'd rather see an action versus the zoning board kind of working with the policy through exception rather than the rule.
Further discussion?
And that fence will not cover the entire property, though. It only goes to the walkway to their side entrance. So it's really a small sliver of their home. I don't know if that softens your opinion on this, but that's something to consider, I think.
If you look at the view of the 3 homes on the south side across from Howard, like that fence would be almost negligible as far as their view.
No, I'm just saying in general,
Right.
the precedent that it
Right.
sets. This might be a little unique, but again, to me, we're bending the policy versus, and administrating through exception rather than, the policy itself. And the reason I brought up the landscaping is that, I think we all went through great pains on the landscaping ordinances, especially Sean. I just feel that those should be leveraged in the future for applications like this, for secondary, front yards.
Can I ask a couple questions about the other houses and then 550 Archer?
Absolutely.
So I drove by, I think without the more detailed explanation, as opposed to one of the other conversations recently, it wasn't clear to me why 1723 was a secondary front yard. But I understand now it's because of the placement of the other houses, right? Not like the case we saw where the fence was actually going to obstruct people's views, like from the front of their houses, like toward the lake. We had that discussion recently. I guess it wasn't clear to me right away, but I understand secondary front yard has a special place in the zoning process. I guess for 550 Archer, which got a permit that should not have, I guess, does anything happen with that? Like, is there any recourse? Is the city supposed to be doing something, or does it just sort of continue on and it's just something for our benefit, I guess?
Staff has not made a determination at this time of what course of action would be taken in regards to 550 Archer.
Okay.
But it was permitted, correct?
A permit was issued and finalized for that fence, yes.
Okay.
I believe it was 2019 from my memory, but that may be incorrect.
I know there was also a change in the ordinance definitions, so I don't know if that predated the change where secondary front was made a part of the definition.
Oh, interesting. So for instance, you were saying earlier that maybe the interpretation has changed, and so are you saying it's possible that that was okay previously, but now is no longer? I just want to make sure I'm fully understanding.
It's possible. I have not looked at the timing and when all those changes were made, and it kind of blurs together after a while.
Yeah.
But I know we had changes to the definition, and we had a lot of conversation about secondary fronts and
Mhm.
trying to clarify things and make sure we had some consistency. And when things change, sometimes that will make it look like, things have been interpreted differently. I don't know for a fact. I'd have to look at the timing on that. And I guess what I would just encourage you to do is to look at the standards of review that Dalton put in the application for this particular or variation request. And I guess the point of looking at these, is to look at each individual circumstance to determine whether it warrants an exception.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I guess I would honestly say, again, having gone through the area just recently, to be ready to ask questions. I'd be in support of giving the variance, but I think your point is well made, that secondary front and clear definition actually appears to be an important issue, because it's come up like 3 times in 4 months. And so maybe we do need to do extra work there, so that you're right, it's not always an exception, as opposed to working more on the actual definition, so.
Further discussion? Someone like to make a motion?
Yeah, it sounds like based on the discussion, I'm gonna make a motion to approve. And we can take a look. The zoning board of appeals moves to approve, Casimir J. Petlick's fence variation request, granting relief from Code of Ordinances, Chapter 12, fences, Section 12-4. B, to allow for approximately 49 feet of 5-foot tall fencing and approximately 30 feet of 6-foot tall fencing within a secondary front yard area of the property located at 1723 South State Street, as the application has satisfied all the standards set forth under Section 12-10A of the City of St. Joseph Fence Ordinance, based upon the applicant's presentation, public comment, and the ZBA's discussion, and the City of St. Joseph staff report dated August 13, 2026, which is hereby incorporated by reference.
We have a motion. Do we have support for the motion?
Support.
Further discussion on the motion? Please call the roll.
Member Healy,
I vote to approve.
Member Bucher,
No.
Member Feasback,
Yes.
Member Stoffmuller,
Approve.
Chair Ebert.
Yes. All right,
Passes.
certainly.
The equal idea of the secondary front yard, I'm glad you brought it up. It's interesting that talking about trying to clarify that. So when I read Dalton's report and was looking at what is a secondary front yard and what's this business about the property across the street, I really had to dig and search. But anyway, I found these things, and so I really appreciate your approving this. But if you're considering looking at this going forward, I did want to make these available. Taking time, whoops, you gotta take extra paper. That's okay. I know I'm taking other folks' time here, but it seemed like it was probably germane.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. So, just, very briefly. Based on that definition, it says the secondary side yard extends from the side of the primary structure to the street. It says the rear yard extends from the rear of the primary structure to the back lot line, rear lot line. And it says the full width of the lot. So according to the definitions, the secondary front yard comes up approximately to our walkway. And this is our rear yard. which goes all the way to the city sidewalk. So again, I'm not here to, litigate what the thing should look like, but if you guys are looking at considering it, that was a bit confusing.
Excellent.
But thank you for your
Appreciate the
time.
feedback. All right, now I gotta find my agenda again. All right, our next order of business is a variance request for 1708 Lakeview. Go ahead and open that public hearing. Is there someone here who would care to speak to that?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Gels, homeowner at 1708 Lakeview. We are looking to have an approval for increased lot coverage to 47.9% and decrease our front setback to 9.7 feet to build a 6-foot by 16-foot composite deck on the front of our home. Where our house is located, one side of the house is on the alley. Then there's an attached garage and a neighbor that's very close. So really, the only place that is reasonable to put some outdoor space in the way of a deck would be on the front of the house. If we did it on the north side of the house, then we would be 6 feet closer to looking in the neighbor's windows. On the other side, of course, is the alley. We put considerable amounts of improvements into the house since we purchased it, including removing some very unruly bushes and trees in front of the house and on the side of the house. So I think removing the unpleasing landscape and now adding a deck would also add aesthetics to the house as well. And it's really the only place that we can go to extend and maybe enjoy a little bit of outdoor space. The sizing of the deck is just to accommodate the front egress to be able to exit the front of the house and get onto the deck itself. The length of the deck is to make the deck symmetrical and aesthetically pleasing to the rest of the house. So for example, the deck wouldn't end in the middle of one of the front windows of the house, so to speak. And that's it.
Perfect. Any questions for the applicant from the board?
Yeah, could you just repeat how you came up with the depth and why you're asking for the variance to be decreased from the 10 feet to 9.7 decimal feet?
There's a part of the deck that's going to be tucked underneath the drip line. So we would just need those additional inches to be able to accommodate the egress out of the front of the house to be able to extend the deck over the existing cement steps or adjacent to those steps and cover them up.
Okay, because that just was odd that it was 0.9 decimal feet, sorry, 0.7 and I was wondering why you couldn't make it 10.
We're being very exact, I guess.
Okay.
Other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Go ahead and open it up for public comment. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to this?
Good afternoon. I'm Marcia Ferris. I live at 410 Archer Avenue with my husband, Michael, and Kevin and Amy are our neighbors. Something that I have always learned when I work professionally for building codes, code enforcement, and public safety throughout the state of Michigan is always keep in mind that aging structures do need repairs, and along the way, while maintaining a safe structure, you also have to consider the occupants of the structure. We too are getting older. Michael and I moved into that neighborhood in 1977, and we're the oldest ones on the block. He's the ambassador of the neighborhood. Sean knows Michael from previous working with him. if one was to deny a deck on the front of Kevin and Amy's house, what does it do to the use of the residents, and more so the front door, if you're standing on a 3.5, maybe 3-foot landing, and you're opening a screen door, you're backing down those stairs to try to get safely into your home while juggling ice, snow, handrails. And I feel that it would be very supportive for both the neighborhood and for the residents to understand that sometimes the best solution is the one that steps just a little bit outside the box. And for that, I hope you can support Kevin and Amy's request for the deck.
Thank you.
Questions?
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak to this? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and discussion of the board.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I have a question for staff. And this is a little creative, but for table 5, is it possible just to omit that variance by utilizing footnote number 9 in terms of averaging? Because when you look down through those houses, it appears that the one to the north and the one to the south are further east, meaning closer to the street. So I was just wondering if that was applicable, or if that's too creative of an interpretation, or maybe it doesn't apply in terms of dimensional variance.
So it could theoretically be applicable. I would have to do some quick on-the-fly research. Make a more accurate determination. My interpretation, looking at the aerial imagery, is it appeared to be pretty in line with the existing homes on the block already.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you include the aerial in
I
the
believe
packet?
On
Yeah.
the staff report, on the first page, that would be packet page
20?
Of course, I got mine all screwed up here. So.
That's why I kept it separately. Yeah, packet page 20 of the original.
Yeah, there is an aerial. The actual home itself is set back a bit further, but the porch itself, which the deck would be projecting slightly past, is visually in line. We do not have the specific setback measurements for those two adjacent properties. To make that determination, we would need some very specific measurements considering the very small size of the requested relief.
Well, what I find amazing in this zone R1E, is that it is very congested when you drive through there, and there's a triangle there where Roosters is, that's still commercial. But that R1E is really compressed, if you will. So to me, it really isn't a unique, to me, it isn't a unique lot, because they're all pretty small. Either they're a little bit longer, narrower, or they're like this one, the 50 feet wide by less deep. There's mention in the packet about the garage being large, but we've been through that plenty of times, right? What constitutes a large garage, and when you look at it, you need a garage about that size park your F-150 in. It can't be really a whole lot smaller. But but even so with, it's non-conforming, but it's only occupying just over the 45%, which is kind of amazing. You mentioned also that R1A, R1B, R1C, and R1D have lower percentages for coverage, total coverage. But the fact of the matter is those are larger lots. They're 6,000 square feet for R1A, and B, C, and D are 5,000 square feet. So I think this area presents unique challenges in the whole neighborhood as far as trying to occupy the 45% and still be able to utilize the land without hardship.
Do we know what the coverage would be without that?
So I believe we have it somewhere.
Yeah, it's 45.31%. So I guess what I'm this is for us, I guess what I'm struggling with is extraordinary, variance standards C and E, extraordinary conditions, and condition or situation is not so general to form a regulation. Here we go again with policy versus through exception. So in that neighborhood, they're all small.
But you could say the neighborhood itself is unique. Which you're kind of saying, but yeah, I understand your rationale.
Yeah, I think the unique thing is the location of the house to the alley. I mean, essentially, there's no side yard there whatsoever. I gotta believe that that's probably non-conforming as it stands now in relation to the alley. So basically, there's a side yard there that,
Zero setback.
yeah, you can't put any outdoor living space there. And you look to where could I put some outdoor living space? And I think they've done a nice job of trying to locate it somewhere where, you can still access it from the house.
I mean, the landing as it is today, if you put 2 chairs on there, you wouldn't be able to do it.
Right.
Well, you have to take the screen door off.
And, the safety issue is a fair concern too. I know that's not what we're evaluating per se, but that's valid.
Correct. And we have standards for those stoops, right? And the distances.
But, practicality.
Yeah, and you look at the request is a variance of 3 inches.
Yeah.
Well,
3
and-
that's why I said just eliminate that.
4% of the
Right.
total coverage.
To me, the issue was more about total coverage and driving through the neighborhood. You're like, man, it's just congested everywhere.
Round it off. 45.
But again, it's non-conforming as well, so to begin with.
Correct.
I don't know. I don't have any questions.
Anybody have any idea when the garage was built? House was 1900, right? I thought it said 1900, but could be wrong, but, right. So the owner didn't put the house there, didn't put the garage there. And he's trying to make the best of the property that he has for his enjoyment of himself.
Somebody want to take a swing at the findings?
Hey, I read the last one.
No, the findings, you gotta do the findings, but I'm lost on the,
What package page are the,
30 is where it starts with the. staff.
30?
So on the version that was delivered, the page numbers have changed a bit because the packet was.
I am too, I'm lost.
So on the original version of the packet, it was package 21.
21, yeah.
All right. Want me to go through them all?
Sure.
Okay. Conventional variance standards. All right, A. This is 15.4.10, page 21 of your packet. Variance would not be detrimental to adjacent property and the surrounding neighborhood. Staff analysis in favor of construction of the front deck as proposed would have no foreseeable adverse effects on adjacent property nor cause a great disturbance in the surrounding neighborhood. Analysis in opposition, construction of the front deck may impact the character of the neighborhood. B, the variance would not impair the intent and purpose of this ordinance. Read all this, all right.
If your motion, are you?
I would say we would, someone should probably propose an in favor of, and then we should take a vote.
Whatever you're proposing, yeah, I think if you are looking at the staff analysis, you would.
Just do the positive.
The ones
the
that you're
pro.
supporting.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree
I
with
agree.
that.
That makes
I
sense.
don't see a greater, a great disturbance to the surrounding neighborhood.
Okay, fair enough. All right, I'm going to summarize here. The variance would not impair the intent and purpose of this ordinance. And the staff analysis in favor says R1E district allows for highest density of the R1 zones. Requested variances are minimal such that they would not impact the long-term character of the R1E district. No adverse effect on public safety would be caused as a result of issuance of the variance. Approval of the variance would not be contrary to the purposes and intent of the ordinance as described in sections 1.2.1 and 5.1.
I concur.
Yes.
All right,
And it
Exception.
is helpful if everybody kind of states their opinion on each of those
I concur.
findings as they're read.
Concur.
all right, paragraph C, exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions apply to the property in question or to the intended use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties in the same zoning district and vicinity. Such circumstances shall create a practical difficulty because of unique circumstances or physical conditions such as narrowness, shallowness, exceptional shape or topography of the property involved, or the intended use of the property. See section 15.4.8.b. Subject property is 4,001 square feet, 1 foot larger than the permitted minimum lot size. The current configuration of the property would allow for no additional development due to the legally non-conforming lot coverage.
I'd pile on as well that it's non-conforming relative to the, location of the alley.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
I agree.
Concur, yeah.
Everyone agrees?
Yeah, D.
Paragraph D, the variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of substantial property rights similar to that possessed by other properties in the same zoning district and in the vicinity. The possibility of increased financial return shall not of itself be deemed sufficient to warrant a variance. Analysis in favor, subject property is the minimum size permitted within the R1E zone district. As such, the property experiences more difficulty in meeting the district regulations than a large or average size property, which can more freely develop larger homes and accessory structures.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Agree.
Paragraph E, the condition or situation of the specific piece of property or of the intended use of said property for which the variance is sought is not of so general or recurrent in nature as to make reasonably practicable formulation of a general regulation for the condition or situation. Analysis in favor says the request is due to the size of the property and its current configuration. The number of other properties requiring a variance to address a similar concern is not of high enough volume to warrant an ordinance amendment.
Agree.
Agree.
Agreed.
Agree. You have to.
But we're getting there. With enough of these, right? Paragraph F, the condition or situation for which the variance is sought shall not be the result of the actions of the property owner. Analysis in favor says staff would not attribute the size of the lot to be the result of the act of the property owner. The current configuration of the property was established prior to the current ordinance. As such, the property owner or their predecessor in title could not have reasonably foreseen that their property would become legally non-conforming. Its non-conforming status would be the result of the city's action in adopting new regulations. I concur.
Agree.
Yeah, with, based on the age of the house and what we've heard on the age of the garage, I agree.
All right, three more. Strict compliance with area setbacks, frontage, height, bulk, or density requirements would unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted purpose or would render conformity unnecessarily burdensome. Analysis requiring strict conformity with the ordinance would not allow any deck to be constructed on the lot due to the current lot coverage. The applicant would have to heavily alter their legally non-conforming garage to create space, which would be quite burdensome.
Agree.
Agree.
Agreed.
And paragraph H, the variance requested is the minimum change necessary to mitigate the hardship. Analysis, the applicant's requests are modest, 2.7% increase in allowed lot coverage and a 0.3 feet reduction to the front setback. This relief is minimal when considering the hardship created by the small size of the lot.
Yeah, I agree. I think they've done a nice job of
Right.
really
Minimizing.
minimizing what they're requesting.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Agree.
And last paragraph I, the variance will relate only to the property that is the subject of this application. Analysis in favor, request itself only relates to the subject property. Concur.
I think that's obvious.
Agree.
Agree.
Further discussion on the findings?
For you to say you.
Oh, I agree.
Would someone like to make a motion based on those findings?
Oh, no, wait. Gotta find it.
It's at the bottom of the, you want me to do it? I got it ready.
Okay.
All right. All right. The zoning board of appeals moves to approve Amy and Kevin Gelt's dimensional variance request for relief from the maximum lot coverage requirement and minimum front setback requirements of Article 5, Table 5-1 for an R1E zone property to allow for the construction of a 16 feet by 6 feet front deck at the property located at 1708 Lakeview Avenue, as the application has satisfied all the standards set forth under Article 15, Section 15.4.10 of the City of St. Joseph zoning ordinance, based upon the applicant's presentation, public comment, ZBA's discussion, and the City of St. Joseph staff report dated August 13th, 2026, which is hereby incorporated for reference.
We have a motion. Is there support for the motion?
I support.
Further discussion on the motion? Please call the roll.
Member Fiesbeck,
Yes.
member Stoltzmüller,
Yes.
Chair Ebert,
Yes.
member Healy,
Yes.
member Bucher.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Excellent. Our next order of business is something, but I've lost my agenda.
Audience comments. Old business?
Any old business? Any public comment? Staff comments, board comments? Anybody dare?
We have a meeting. I don't need that to go in the minutes.
I will let you know, if no board comments. Okay, I did announce my retirement this week. So
Oh.
I wanted to let you know. My last day working in City Hall will be December 1st. So I'll be fully on board until then. I'll be available for questions after that, but I'll be retiring, so. I wanted
Good for
to let
you.
know.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Someone like to make a motion to adjourn? I'll make a motion we adjourn.
I second the motion.
We have support. All those in
Support.
favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
So Kurt,
Yes, sir.
on